Okay everyone, this is a huge change. Blizzard have lost the plot and they've went absolutely mad. At least that's what some people think with Marksmanship Hunter, because it's one of World of Warcraft's most popular specs, and as of patch 11.1, it is saying goodbye to pets. And that's because the fabled Marksmanship Hunter rework is finally here, along with changes to other specs and a full rework of the pack leader hero talent, because basically it absolutely sucked. It's not live in the PTR, but the talent tree, the changes, Blizzard's explanations, those are all up. And I'll tell you what, they are taking a humongous risk on pets. But the other side of this looks pretty damn good. There's no better place to start off than the elephant that will no longer be in the room because your pets are fully gone. Blizzard are basically tired of not being able to balance Lone Wolf doing extra damage versus, well, having a pet, which would mean loads and loads of utility. So Blizzard have taken the nuclear option here and they have gutted pets entirely. That means that as an MM Hunter, you will not have a button called Call Pet, which is pretty crazy. Now, you are technically going to have a pet. You've got an eagle who'll be following you around in battle. Now, it's not a physical pet in the same way, so it's not there auto-attacking, it's not tanking, you won't be physically controlling it, so if you're somebody who did like Lone Wolf, yeah, you'll like the new eagle. But it's going to do most of what a pet does, and that really does matter. You'll be able to use Bloodlust as an example, and there's going to be a new stun that your eagle can do that will ignore line of sight. And that basically solves the Lone Wolf problem, because with this, as a hunter, as an MM hunter anyway, you'll have a balance of damage and utility. And if you're, say, a raiding hunter, you're probably thrilled. I mean, as a raider, it's music to my ears, but players are rightly pretty pissed in the forums. They're losing their beloved pets. If you're somebody who, say, loved soloing things on an MM hunter, or it's just what you liked in world content, rip you. When you're going about even just questing, it's nice to have a pet do the tanking for you. And because of that, well, the outrage is actually fairly loud. And as much as I won't feel the problem, I understand it, I agree with it, and I think it is kind of fair. This is Blizzard putting a whole new, huge direction on a 20-year-old spec that people are fairly used to, and it's sort of core bread and butter stuff. So honestly, I'd be surprised if a full petless design actually makes it live, and that is based on the bloodbath that's on the forums. That being said, the eagle is pretty damn awesome. It is way better than Lone Wolf. I absolutely think Blizzard should keep it. I love the eagle fantasy, and I hope there's a way to work pets back into this. So that's the drama, but I actually have got good news. When you go through the rest of the rework with a fine-tooth comb, it turns out it actually looks amazing. The biggest changes then are what Blizzard are taking away and what they're actually doing with that space. So, Barrage is gone, Wailing Arrow is gone, Steady Focus, that's also gone. Those are probably the three most important removals, but that's not all the removals. Blizzard is also getting tons of different passives, and it's all in favor of focus. And I don't mean the Hunter resource focus, I mean design focus. Because it's fair to say that Marksmanship Hunter, at its worst, ended up being a core rotation and then a sort of grab bag of just random bolt-on abilities, and that broke the flow. So removed passives are being replaced with overall the spec having a tighter focus on your rapid fire and your aimed shot, which is basically the core of the spec. And that means some other losses. No more automatic Serpent Sting from Serpent Stalker, no more Legacy of the Windrunners as a whole thing, which, hey, if you don't like Sylvanas, is probably good news to you. Light ammo and heavy ammo are dead. Chimera shot going does sting a little bit, but Blizzard are actually making up for that because MM is getting something that's honestly kind of insane. It's called Aspect of the Hydra, and when you turn it on, you just get 2-target passive cleave, which is pretty sick. Then there's Double Tap. Double Tap is back, but it's back as a passive. Salvo is actually a passive on a cooldown rather than a button now, and then they've taken a big look at precise shots, and they've really changed up how it's going to be playing. This matters a hell of a lot. This is just one of those mechanics that kind of sucked up a lot of the flow from this spec. So here's the way it's going to work, right? Rather than consume both stacks automatically during True Shot, now, the baseline version of it that you will have has got one stack, but it's stronger. There's then a talent which will add in a second stack of precise shots, but it makes it so that both are consumed with a single arcane shot. So basically, you either build, then spend, or you build two and then spend both of them at the same time. So if you want a little bit more planning, a little bit more resource management, you can go for that, and other talents actually let you do that even more. As an example, you can build Kill Shot or Black Arrow to also add stacks of that. Rapid Fire also gives you a stack as well, and that's important for Streamline, because man, Streamline's actually going to be pretty important how this spec plays. So Streamline is the talent that made each rapid fire speed up your next aim shot, but now it actually acts like a keyword. It stacks twice, and it comes from rapid fire, precise shots, and explosive shots. Now, I know that I've just kind of rattled off to you a whole bunch of different shots and mechanics. Here's kind of the upshot of that in gameplay. So you'll basically tap 2 abilities, then you'll launch a rapid buffed aim shot. And because of this, our big cooldown true shot actually won't decrease the aim shot cast time anymore. That's all being done by Streamline, and instead true shot will just make your Streamline buff even faster. In fact, it can be so fast that with the right build, you're firing off an almost free aim shot in 0.3 seconds. So that's basically what's going on here. Blizzard have went all in on the flow of those core abilities, and they've stripped away a lot of the other junk, and they've reworked the passives and the talents to basically let you customize how you want that flow to play out. Now, these changes, especially things like no longer having to maintain steady focus, which is nice because it was just, hey, let's do 2 steady shots just to keep a buff up. That was boring. So all of that space is now more rapid fire channels, more aim shot loops, and it should feel better, I think. Steady shot, of course, is still there as an ability, but its job is just to earn you focus rather than just maintain a buff, which is good because that was boring. Then there's explosive shot, and this is also kind of cool. So explosive shot is like neat in itself, but it was another bit of bloat that competed with the rest of the spec, just for room, for design space. So what they've done here is they've taken the survival hunter approach and they've blended this into the spec. So now, right, it's got a cooldown reduction, it's got a talent that makes aim shot pop the explosive shot for extra damage and have bonus damage on your next arcane shot, which will basically play out like this. So you'll hit an aim shot, that will give you precise shots, that will of course buff your arcane shot. Now when your aim shot lands, if you've say had an explosive shot on the target, it will then pop that for even more damage, and when that happens, it will add even more damage to your arcane shot, so that then you'll hit out your precise shots buffed arcane shot, which will do a truckload of damage, and that will then reduce the cooldown of explosive shot. So the idea is that everything feeds into everything else and you get a sense of flow. On paper at least, it seems way better than what we've been used to. And to augment that, as an example, if you hit a rapid fire before an explosive shot, you would then have extra stacks of your buffs. And that would mean that everything would hit harder and it would hit faster. And that is just the core rotation. There's actually so much more. As an example, here's how your eagle works. So basically, whenever you use precise shots, whenever you consume those stacks, that will have a chance of making your eagle apply Spotter's Mark. Now, baseline, that will just add some more damage to your arcane shot, but with a chunk of new talents, it can stack up haste, it can add aimed shot crit chance, it can reduce your aimed shot cooldown, and even apply in AoE, which will give you massive trick shot damage. So basically, you'll have this cool eagle that's flapping about the place doing cool things, but you won't need to actively manage it. Now, on top of all of this, for our AoE, this is crazy. Multi-shot is finally baseline, and the talent rework seriously just helps that struggle that MM hunters have faced for a long time of feeling forced to either hard build into AoE or single target, where the tree would almost be fighting with itself. So overall, I would say this is shaping up to be a more elegant and simple design that cuts out a bunch of button bloat that ended up hurting the flow and the interactivity of all the different spells. Their goal basically is aim shot and focus management that is easier to learn and hard to master, and on paper I think it is extremely promising. That being said, Hunter's Mark still exists. I don't really know why. Blizzard, come on, please just make that a passive like Chaos Brand or Mystic Touch. So, that's the changes, but we've got to get to Blizzard's explanation, because they've said something is intentional, and that really has me conspiratorial. I've got to ask you to stay with me for this one, and if you played a Demonology Warlock in Warlords of Draenor, certainly I think we may have a similar thing going on here. So, we cannot just set aside the fact that we're using an eagle instead of a pet and the pets are fully going. Now, I'm all for letting Blizzard change things, right? But this is a pretty crazy thing to just announce, then break for the holidays and let the forums kind of, explode and catch fire. This is 20 years of people being used to an entire game system with pets, only to have, well, the fundamental bit of the spec actually change. It's, I don't know, like taking away Moonkin form from a balanced druid or dual wielding from a fury warrior. It's kind of important to the fantasy for many people at this stage. So something's got to give, but we're not going to know until Blizzard properly respond, or, in the worst/most interesting case, stay silent. And that's what I really wanted to talk about. Blizzard have said this is an intentional change to the fantasy of this spec. The blue post basically goes on about hunters being defined by their relationship to nature, whereas marksmanship was just kind of shooting stuff and it didn't feel that connected to nature. Their idea with the eagle is to allow an MM hunter to get lone wolf style gameplay, but to still feel tied to nature and animals and all of that huntery stuff. Now, on the forums, a player named Luxria had an absolutely massive brain blast, and this is something. They think it just smells funny, a little bit like how demonology warlocks had a super special fun time in Warlords of Draenor. Basically, turning into a demon was the demonology warlock thing for years. Like, that's literally what they would do. They would turn into a big demon. Until Blizzard slowly choked Metamorphosis out of the gameplay via changes. And then the Legion revamp happened. Demonology no longer turned into a demon. Instead, they summoned in lots of demons. And then the Demon Hunter came in, and that is the class that turns into a demon with its metamorphosis. Basically, Blizzard were changing up the core of those specs to make room for Demon Hunters, and they did what they did. It was quite literally the case that Blizzard did not want people playing demonology. Ian Hazzikostas even said that on a WoW Q&A and got quite a lot of flack for it. Then, with Legion, it was very obvious what happened. Demon Hunters came in and they gobbled up all of that demon transformation space, leaving, of course, Demonology Warlock as a summoner. Now, this is a bit of a long shot, but it does make sense to me. Marksmanship hunters being forced into a more nature-centric fantasy does leave room for another class that uses guns, but has got no ties to nature, like, say, the Tinker, just as we get a goblin-themed patch. Just as we also see Bran Bronzebeard, in patch 11.1, gain the ability to tank, but when he tanks, he uses a shield and a gun. That certainly is a little bit suspicious, especially if you think about that leaked survey which had ideas in it for other gun-wielding classes. And honestly, I'm kinda down for most of that shit. Okay, back to pets though, but not for Marksmanship Hunter because there has been another revamp. Pack Leader is one of our hero talent trees, and it really did suck. It was just super boring. But seeing these changes, it's actually clear to me that Blizzard took on board people's beta era feedback. It just obviously took them quite a while to get around to fixing it. So the post opens up by saying that they are reassessing what Pack Leader is. They're clearly aware that basically nobody liked it. Now they say they looked at Rexxar. Rexxar, really awesome character from the lore, so they looked at him as an inspiration and they've drawn up something new. Pack Leader now involves you actually leading a pack. So instead of just a bunch of passive buffs that bored the tits off everybody, you'll be summoning in 3 new beasts. There's a bear, a boar, and a wyvern. You don't summon them in all at once. They're not all summoned in at the same time because obviously that would be kind of messy. Instead, on a cooldown, Kill Command will call in a bonus pet that will bring a unique effect. So the bear pet, well, that will be shredding enemies with a dot and it will reduce your cooldowns. The boar will charge in a few times for burst damage and it will be adding damage to AoE, to either your Cobra Shot or your Mongoose Bite with each charge that it does. And then the wyvern will fly about the place, buffing you and your other pet's damage, and you can actually extend the duration of your wyvern with proper play, which actually seems kind of cool to me. And then there's technically a 4th pet. It's this little turtle that will protect your head as a defensive proc, which is kind of cute. Overall, what this is, though, is a complete rework of the spec. Complete rework. Nothing remains of the existing tree, which is absolutely a good thing because that tree blows. 100% it is summoning in beasts and managing their effects. Everything else is gone. And I do count that as a good thing. This is obviously not testable, but Pack Leader sucked. I'm glad they're actually doing something. Now, I can't say everyone's happy here. Some people just don't like the Rexxar specific focus in the same way that some people don't like Sentinel because it's quite night elfish. But look, if this is what we had in the alpha, I think people would have been way happier. And there's another interesting thing. If you're keeping score, this is 5 full reworks to the Hunter this expansion. I know it's kind of crazy, but Dark Ranger and Pack Leader have both been completely redone. Marksmanship has got this rework, and then both Beast Mastery and Survival got tons of changes over the last few patches, including a few changes in this patch, which I may as well cover. These changes are small, but they are important. So Beast Mastery gets a few new talents to help tune their AoE damage, but also a choice to stick with one larger pet instead of summoning in multiple. To be honest with you, from like an emotional perspective, if you just wanted to be like you and your bro, the pet, yeah, I totally like that. Now, they're also losing Venom's Bite and Basilisk Collar, which is a little bit odd because those were just added recently, so I guess so much for the dot playstyle. But anyway, that's what's going on with BM. Then there's Survival. So Survival is getting one of the removed pack leader talents that people did actually like in SV, so that's definitely a good thing. And then there's a few small tweaks to AoE and the amount of buttons that you've got, where now Butchery and Flanking Strike are going to be on a choice node in the middle of your tree. So some people will like that because less bloat. Some people will say, hey, I like having both those buttons. Anyway, there is Sentinel as well, the other hero talent tree. It did not escape without change. Basically, it now goes off less, but it will do more damage. And this is big. It'll actually track your target. Blizzard basically said that it didn't feel special enough. I think the idea of it tracking your target is certainly good from a usability perspective. It was always annoying when, yeah, that would miss and you'd feel a bit screwed over. So where we're left then, serious controversy from some players over not being able to have a pet and play Marksmanship Hunter. If that's like, if you enjoy playing MM in a delve, and a core part of that for you is you have got your trusty turtle that is doing your tanking, that's going to blow. And I really think Blizzard should do something so that people don't feel that sting. I mean, come on, utility was the main problem. We've basically fixed that utility problem. Yes, it would technically be worse to have your pets out, but that's kind of okay. Let's just give people the option. Surely they'd be happier that way. Anyway, Blizzard does have to deal with that. But other than that, MM is looking really damn good. I am very happy that I've leveled my Hunter up to 80. And I think this will be, honestly, quite major because Hunter is one of the most played specs in World of Warcraft. Historically, it has been that for a long time. I think MM has seriously been due some love. But I think we both know what really didn't get a lot of love. The Siren Isle. Yeah, it really didn't. And I totally get why. Some of the lore in it's pretty sick, and it would be good for you to know that lore as the story goes forward so you're not confused. And that's why you should check out this video next.